Welcome, everyone. I apologize for the bit of a technology delay we had there. Even after all these months, after this year, we all still have our challenges. My name is Dawn Miller. I am country president for Chubb Insurance Switzerland. I'm very proud to be on the board of the Insurance Industry Charitable Foundation and also chair of the events committee. So thank you very much for joining us in this third webinar in our series, Being Heard, the Many Voices of Diversity. Just a quick note about the Insurance Industry Charitable Foundation. We're a nonprofit that represents the entire insurance industry. It allows brokers, agents, service providers to the industry, insurers, a very interesting and unique opportunity to engage their employees and amplify community impact, and collectively work to create a more sustainable industry and participation in the communities around us. We also connect companies and charities to create a diverse talent pool and a more vibrant, inclusive industry through a grants program specifically focused on social mobility. Over the last 5 years, which we were established in the UK 5 years ago, we've helped over 2,000 people across the country excel at school, enter meaningful employment, and make a new and meaningful start in life. We've also brought together more than 1,000 industry leaders in volunteering and other events. We've continued to make a difference during the pandemic by raising vital funds for smaller charities through an industry-wide campaign, the IICF UK COVID-19 Crisis Community Relief Fund. By now, I think you've probably heard about it. We recognize that recovery from this crisis is going to take some time. It's not going to be easy and certainly brings new challenges and challenges we all never anticipated. One such issue is that of digital exclusion. Creating a generation of young people without access to the internet or technology to continue their education online, and also makes it very difficult for all sorts of risk groups to have access to vital services if technology is not working at your fingertips. So we are very proud to announce our second campaign, the IICF UK COVID-19 Revitalizing Communities Fund, and we invite you to make a donation at the end of this webinar. The webinar series that you're part of now is the launch of this campaign. So, when we look back through history, we know that 2020 is going to be remembered for a couple different reasons. Obviously, the pandemic, and obviously, as well, diversity was propelled into the public domain in a wonderful and tremendously useful and open way. Terms like social equality, cognitive diversity have become part of a vernacular while businesses and organizations all over the world start to realize the positive impact, finally, of having a variety of backgrounds, races, genders, abilities, and ages in an organization performing. If not before time, in a Forbes Insight survey of 321 executives, 85% finally now agree that a diverse and inclusive workforce is crucial to encouraging different perspectives and driving innovation and progress. But how do we attract that talent? How do we attract that talent, in particular when I think about our industry that I love so desperately, when it is characterized by being perhaps a little bit more old-fashioned or more traditional? How to create a culture that's suitable for bringing in diverse talents and thought processes, at the same time ensuring the needs of each individual employee is met and help them maximize their performance in order to create that more inclusive and effective organization that we're looking for. It's a question that our speakers today will be addressing for us. But before I introduce them, a couple of housekeeping points now that our technology is working for us. Please use the chat function, which I think you're familiar with any Q&A technical questions, addressing those to our colleague Stacy at Waitman's. And also, please put up any Q&A you might have throughout the conversation. I'll be taking a note of those and be able to read those back and have those answered later in the session. Now, it gives me great pleasure to introduce who you see on the screen here, Chris James, the CEO of Impedulo. They are an organization providing tax compliance services, and more appropriately today's webinar, Impedulo is an African word meaning the answer. And Chris certainly has one to the question, how can we attract, attain, and retain, and keep and maximize diverse talent to the industry? So with that, Chris, I hand over you to share your thoughts and stories.
Thanks very much, Dawn. Appreciate that. Hope everyone is well today. Can everyone see the slides? I'm trusting. Give me a thumbs up, Noah, if you can see the slides.
Actually, right now, Chris, I'm sorry to say I cannot see the slides. Okay. But if the panelists can see them, that is perfect. That's
okay. The panelists, I have Kirat, thank you very much. You have said you can see the slides. Great. Today's talk really is about my journey in finding exceptional talent and what we try to do in a small company in Pendulo. There are only 14 of us in total, but I have worked in bigger organizations, and it's the same thread for me. What we commonly hear is that HR are leading the process and HR are driving, trying to find our talent. I don't believe in that. I think HR have a facility to make sure that the headcount is signed off and they go through all of the processes that you don't need to. But as a leader of teams or people that are looking to build teams, you need to take ownership for finding the talent. So do that as a first step. Let HR help facilitate, but don't let them lead on it. You find the talent, you find the CVs. Sorry, Dawn.
Perfect, Chris, I'm so sorry. I understand your slides are not being shared at the moment.
Okay.
So maybe there's a little button to push. Fantastic. Right. Thank you so much.
I'm gonna do that.
I wanted to catch you before you went into any key tips and tricks. Excellent. Thank you so much.
You can see them now. Okay. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our journey in Pendulo. As Dawn said, we are a small service company exclusively to the insurance sector. And we got to know about the IICF when one of our networks, one of our partnerships within the industry invited me to a charity ball probably 5 or 6 years ago. In fact, that's not true. 3 years ago. I sat next to a young lady who was an ambassador for a charity called Key for Life. And she told me what they do. And at that point, I said to her, you have truly inspired me to look for talent where I would never have gone to seek talent previously. And I said to her, and I made a commitment to her that day, that evening, before the champagne had kicked in, I hasten to add that my next hire would be from the charity Key for Life. So I want to just share with you a little bit about who Key for Life are before we continue. It should be playing a video shortly. There we go. Can anyone hear that? I can't. Is it playing the sound, Dawn?
No, I'm sorry to say it is not.
I tested this 2 minutes before the session started and it was perfect. Stacey, I wonder if you have access to the slides. Let me see if I can fix it.
Chris, maybe if you try
away from my old lifestyle. Nothing but love. When you change the routine, your life starts to change.
We launched Key for Life in the wake of the 2011 riots, and our main objective is really to rehabilitate young men in prison, those at risk of going to prison, and we also work with children caught up in knife crime. We're all about trying to get these young men away from a life of crime and show them the other alternatives.
I was on the roads. I became a product of my environment. From young, I grew up on a tough estate. I had a family where I was the only boy, so I had to kind of bring money in from young. So for me, doing this crime was normal. It's like people that wasn't doing crime making money, I used to look at them like they're weird. I was quite into drugs. I was fighting a lot. I didn't really give a crap if I didn't wake up the next day. I'm grateful that I walked through that door and met Eva, because I don't know where I'd be today if I didn't do that. I'd probably be in prison or worse.
They showed us no respect when we first arrived at the prison. The minute the horses arrived, everything changed.
This is my first year on the program, but yeah, Cooper's like my mentor. I lost two of my close friends to knife crime. So when I found out that he lost a close friend, that's what made us really connect. When I first started working with the horses, they explained to me it's a lot about your emotional state, and they do sense emotions way better than humans, which just left everyone in my group like fucking gobsmacked. I got really depressed. I fell into addiction problems, which I have done in the past. And I was so low that I was wondering, what's the point? I'm miserable. There's no point in trying anymore, you know. So I was close to sort of ending it, really. And then Eva, bless her, managed to coax me out of the flat, get me on the horses, and sort of try and work through stuff. We tend to verbalize stuff, we lie, we try to put on a front, stuff like that. Whereas horses, it's all out in the open, they don't do any of that.
It's basically a place where people come to change and further themselves. So when we take them up the Glastonbury tour, the journey up there is usually, I think, pretty life-changing.
Before Keith Alive, I never had an interview, let alone a job. I battled through because I learned that when you're scared of something, go do it anyway, and then that's where your growth lies.
You just notice the change in guys, and then when they notice they're changing themselves, they see they're around positive people, they see they're around a positive thing all the time. It's just an amazing feeling.
I think coming here, even just occasionally, does make you realise that can have a better future, so even if you lose guidance sometimes.
It's making them feel they're part of something, and something that really does care for them.
I think this scheme is one of the best schemes because everyone that does it has actually got something from it. The more work you put in, the more results you're going to see. That's the bottom line of it.
I think something I noticed from being in a gang area is like everyone follows each other. So one thing I like to tell kids and people is create your own buzz and bees will follow.
Thank you very much for bailing me out there on the technology front. I appreciate it, Stacey. Create your buzz and bees will follow. I think that's very true for the insurance industry. I'm just about to introduce you to a young man that joined us after I made that commitment to Key for Life, Noah, who has noted many times in the insurance industry how everyone looks the same. Everyone seems to think the same. And that is part of our challenge as an industry. We need to start breaking out of the same recruitment processes, the same places we try and find the same people, because then we get groupthink. And if we are going to change the world, we need to break out of that. So on that note, I hand over to my colleague and Key for Life ambassador, Noah Abugar.
Hi all. Thank you, Chris, for the introduction, and I'd like to thank Dawn and Wendy for arranging this through the IICF. It really is a pleasure. I spoke at the last event in the Tower of London, and that was a really great experience for me, and I think for all those that joined, and I hope people can take something from this talk as well. So my journey through the Key for Life program was very similar to a lot of those guys that we just saw in the video. I initially had graduated from university and grown up in a council estate. I had a lot of ambition to make it out of there and to to help as much people around me through my education and through essentially being socially mobile. There was a term called yuppie that I remember learning in geography in high school, young upwardly mobile person, something like that. And it was something that I always aspired to be. However, after coming back from holiday, after coming to London for holiday during break from university, I had a night out with an old friend of mine, and to cut a long story short, I ended up a week later being arrested for some GBH, which is gross bodily harm. I was very shocked about it during the entire time, and I then decided to go to Aberdeen to do a master's whilst I was going through the entire court process. So this process of going to court while studying was like really stressful. But not only that, it made me see an eye through the judicial system and the way it works, and how somebody like me, and there are many others, could suddenly, after having worked very hard for so many years, with one mistake, have their life chances severely diminished, and that would normally propel someone to go back into a life of crime in order to make enough money and to have the economic status that they desired for so long. So I met Key for Life during the time period at which I had moved back to London. I was living back in my family home in a council estate in London, in northwest London, called Stonebridge. I heard about Key for Life through a friend, and I remember meeting the young girl that also Chris met at the IICF dinner, and she told me, "Are you interested in working in the city?" And I really hadn't heard a lot about the city, or really, I was more into engineering at that time. It was all new to me, and I went to the program, went to Somerset for a 3-day unlock session, and that was incredible, where we played with the horses, we spent time in the countryside, and living in a city, urban environment where it's very competitive, where it's very rough, where it's a dog eat dog world. Sometimes it looks like that. To have that breakaway during the unlock program really helped all the young guys, and myself included, to sort of think outside of the box. We came back into London with like a completely fresh perspective on our ambitions. Why are we doing what we want to do, and what are the passions that drive somebody to commit a crime and to get a job are normally the same thing, right? Is that economic upliftment, or that the desire to provide for your family, or the desire to be seen as an honorable person in your community. And that turns out has many ways of manifesting itself, and it does sometimes through crime, and it does sometimes through capitalism, right? So we are, I think, in a place where we have people in inner city areas, or in London or around the world, that are people that are incredibly talented, that are hardworking and intelligent, but they just grow up in the wrong environment, where they have the wrong role models, they see the wrong, they don't see the opportunities, let alone know about how to achieve it and grasp those opportunities. So organizations for Key for Life are really great at allowing the person to see the opportunity, and then companies, if they are open to hiring somebody that is quote unquote different from the rest of the mainstream, right, then maybe that will like boost in terms of diversity. But when we're talking about diversity, we also are talking about what are the benefits of diversity. So having, it's proven time and again through many studies that having people with different perspectives can help a business, can help motivation in different ways, and it builds a team that is working towards the same goal, but with different mindsets. And those different mindsets are sometimes really good at increasing the overall capability of a team and a group and a company. With Impendulo, for example, when I first heard about Impendulo, I was so like impressed by the name, just the name. The name, I think, was the great one of the answer. It felt like it was the answer for me. It was the answer for the insurance companies. It was the answer for a lot of people, the team included as well. So that was something that I really that drew me to Impendulo. And not only that, was also the global side. So when we're talking about diversity, we also mention different races and genders and different cultures. And I think now at the moment, the city of London has a year for culture. Also, Brent, the borough I'm living in, has called the Borough of Cultures for 2020. So I think in London specifically, and the insurance being the heart, the heart of insurance being based in London, is that we have a great opportunity to combine the best of different cultures. I mean, our cultures are different, and that's the whole reason of culture. And that's just something that should be celebrated, and the best of culture should always be brought out to have the most holistic experience a human being can have when you're able to grasp so many different concepts. And specifically with insurance being such a global industry, and maybe in ways that they can expand, is to have different cultures and different ways of doing business, or fundamentally the same, however, just on the maybe on the surface, or the way things are conducted slightly differently in order to penetrate certain markets more. For example, during our working as in the insurance consultancy in Impendulo, we cover a broad range of countries and territories all over the world. And my role is as a research and development analyst, is to research the insurance markets in different places around the world and their tax information, regulation. And you start noticing trends of how law is established in different countries around the world, in different territories. And that fundamentally is almost based on culture. You know, you have in certain areas, different styles of insurance. You know, in Islamic countries, you have the kafil insurance, which is growing sector in the world, around the world now. And you have health insurance, the way health insurance plays out. So, I mean, insurance fundamentally is a force for good, and it's, having maybe traveled now around a few places, I've noticed that, you know, the poorer countries are the places that do definitely need insurance in order to uplift the economy and uplift the standard and quality of living in those places. And in London, we have a great amount of people from different cultures that would be great at being able to directly target certain areas and territories around the world in order to understand how they can play, how the insurance role can, how insurance can penetrate those markets and also improve the quality and standard of living in those areas. So fundamentally, it's a diversity. It can't be a negative thing. It will always be positive. And I think I just want to now veer onto another topic, which is how to make the most.
I think we may be strapped for time, mate. It's not a 3-hour session. So if you can wind up, that'll be great.
Yeah. So an important part, I think, is so when we do have diversity, is how to encourage it and how to ensure that it is it benefits the team and everyone in order for it to have some sort of exuberance. And I think when I initially came into the city in London, you know, I felt like an outsider slightly. And there's a phrase that I was reading about from Michelle Obama that I read. It's called the imposter syndrome, where somebody feels like they're pretending to be something that they're not. And I think this is what is sort of a drawback to diversity. So, and the reason is because people believe that they have to sort of match the environment, right? And I think the key role in promoting diversity is to encourage individuals and people to say, you know, just being yourself in a manner that is true to you will definitely bring out the best in you, and then thus bring out the best in the company, the best in the performance of the business in general. So my journey through Key for Life, just to wrap it all up in conclusion, is to say Key for Life definitely helped a lot. I mean, they do a lot of great things, and I continue to work with them. I have a mentor called Steph, who I think really helps me from time to time, discussing ideas. And working in Mpendula for sure has been an amazing experience. I mean, I think sometimes we were remote working before remote working was big, and that's a great thing. You know, it shows vision and foresight, and I think Chris has always shown that vision and foresight. So yeah, I think just to finally wrap it up, I'd like to say, yeah, just be open to employing people from all other backgrounds, and ensure that they promote their background in order to harness the best of diversity.
Thanks, Noah. I think as you can probably tell, he's pretty enthusiastic about trying to get more people with diverse experiences into the City of London and into the insurance sector, and we should certainly do that, because it's beneficial. It's proven beneficial to us. So how could you change a life, which is Key for Life's basic mantra? You just need to say yes to attending an event. So congratulations, today may be that first event that could change the way you look for talent. Say yes to meeting great candidates. Say yes to having your mind blown. I think what you will be surprised about if you go into prisons around the country and speak to these individuals. They're unbelievably talented, and it really opens your mind to maybe one bad mistake has led to them potentially ruining their lives. And people of our generation, we've made some bad mistakes, but there was no mobile phone footage to show it off, I think, for a lot of us. So we're lucky in that front. And say yes to talking to someone about it. I think that's the most important thing that you need to do today. Tell others in the organizations, in the big organizations you represent, tell others about potentially being open to something different and a different approach. And that will foster conversation, and with conversation, you'll start attracting diverse talent. And my final slide. Engage your teams, get them on board. That's important, because if you are bringing in people to the organization that have this imposter syndrome, that think about that takes managing both your existing team and the new team that you're bringing in. Meet the talent. Key for Life has a great placement program where you get to interview the candidates. You get to do 3-day taster sessions so that you can really see them in that environment thriving, or potentially needing assistance, or your team thriving by having that diverse talent. Think about the fit. Think very carefully about what role they can do, because these people are super ambitious. So don't put them in a task, in a role that they are not going to be allowed to thrive. They're not going to be allowed to show off their talent, because they are probably more ambitious than a lot of the teams than you would think. And offer opportunities. Offer them opportunities to mentor others, to talk to others, to foster conversation. So I think that is pretty much it from me. And Noah, thank you for listening. And if we can answer any questions, please feel free to do so once we can do that. So over to you, Dawn. Thank you.
Fantastic, incredible messaging from yourself, Chris, in terms of wrapping things up. And Noah, is just such a gift to hear you again. I remember meeting you at the Tower a year and a half ago and being inspired, and no less so now. So thank you so much. Chris, I thought some of the wrap-up comments, you know, whilst they seem basic, attend a meeting, keep an open mind, I think it's so important in these times that we all we all behave that way, right? And we all realize that we all have imposter syndrome ourselves. So of course, others around us will have that, in particular in these circumstances, and how can we ensure that everyone has an equal opportunity to thrive and bring their diversity to the front. So before we do Q&A, because we do have quite a few questions actually, it is my honor now as well to introduce Debbie Barlow. She's the Employment Director at Leadership Through Sport and Business. It's also a social mobility related charity that prepares and supports bright young people from disadvantaged backgrounds into roles in major firms. So a similar mission coming from different backgrounds, but no less important. Debbie, I'd love to hand over to you now to hear a little bit more about leadership through sport and business. And then after that, we'll open the floor for some questions. So over to you, Debbie.
Thank you very much, Dawn. What an incredible charity Key for Life is. That was really exceptional. I really enjoyed learning about that. Horses have great spirituality and they're great levelers. So what a great program. It's absolutely brilliant. So yes, I'm very happy to be here today. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so proud when people come together and they try to address social mobility. So you know, it's an honor to be here. And actually, I never turn down an opportunity to talk about leadership through sport and business, or LTSB for short, because it's a very long name, as more often than not, there's someone who attends the event or the webinar that will be struck by something that I say, and they will decide to open up an opportunity and, you know, change a young person's life. So here I am, and, you know, Chris and Noah are, you know, evidence that that does happen, and this could happen today. So as Dawn said in the introduction, we're a social mobility charity, and since 2012 we've helped over 600 young people, bright young people from disadvantaged backgrounds, into roles in London, Birmingham, Manchester and Liverpool. And this year, for the first time, actually Edinburgh. So we're spreading our wings, which is fantastic. We've prepared and supported them into meaningful roles with over 90 different organisations, and have a deep understanding of what it is to bring them into the workplace, and also help employers to create environments in which the best from all backgrounds can thrive. So our life-changing programs prepare and support 16 to 24-year-olds. We work in finance, we work in digital and tech, and we're actually just moving into the area of law. And what we do is we find those young people who are ambitious and at risk of underemployment. You know, they get caught up in the gig economy, they have to, you know, earn money now rather than plan for the future, and they get caught up in jobs which are beneath their abilities. And what we do is we find careers for them, and we do that through the apprenticeship route. So we do this in two different stages, really. We have an intensive pre-employment program where we work on you know, sort of personal and professional development. And one of the main things that we tackle is confidence and belief in themselves, and, you know, belief in their own abilities, and to help them to feel like they belong when they go into big corporates, and we give them lots of experience going into those environments. This year's been a bit different, and we've done all our boot camps virtually, which has been incredible. Actually, it's been a real success. So you know, challenges may come, but we always you know, we do our best to overcome them. So we actually support as well, once they've been through our programs, we support that very difficult application process. And I think, as Chris mentioned, you know, some of these application processes do cut out a very big pool of talent. And what we're doing is we're working with employers to break down some of those barriers, and to, you know, to allow these young people to present themselves for jobs that perhaps they feel wouldn't normally be for them. We also provide each of our young people with a mentor. It's interesting to hear that Noah has a mentor, and that can be life-changing too. it's something that, you know, you feel like someone is there with you and helping you on your journey and helping you navigate your career. And I think that's really important. And also LTSB are with that young person once they've been placed for 12 months. So we feel that that level of support and commitment and real sort of enthusiasm for each young person's journey is why what we do works really, really well. So practical suggestions would be, you know, allow someone like LTSB to remove the risk you might feel of taking someone on like this. And I know insurance companies like to think of risk. So, I mean, give an opportunity to someone who doesn't come through the normal recruitment channels. Change your recruitment channels slightly. We've just been working as the social mobility partner for the NatWest group. And believe you me, they had a very, very stringent sort of screening process, which, you know, in some places is really, really good, but we worked with them and we have now a whole social mobility program where young people are coming through to their roles and to their apprenticeships, and they're going to be doing degrees with them. They're going to be doing all kinds of qualifications through our program, and it's working. So please consider it. People often ask, you know, where do we find the young people? And we recruit in a number of ways, but our favourite way of recruitment is the people that have been through the programme who recommend their brothers, their siblings, their, you know, cousins to come and do what they did. And we send our young people back into their schools and say, look what we're doing. You know, it's very, very powerful to talk to someone who's maybe was in your sixth form class 3 years before and they're now working, you know, somewhere, you know, and doing an incredible qualification and embarking on a proper career. So we get referrals from other organisations. So I might well be in touch with Key for Life quite soon and see what we can do together. And then we also advertise on all the normal, you know, apprenticeship websites. So our access to our programs is really, really hopefully, you know, out there. And we're trying to persuade schools that university isn't right for everyone, and that we must give apprenticeships as an alternative to university, particularly from people, you know, from the demographic we're working with. We recruit very carefully and we recruit contextually. So we look at the academic criteria that our young people come with, and we look at where they went to school, and we use something called RARE, which shows how they perform against their peer groups. So, you know, suddenly a different picture appears from someone that might appear to have a very kind of average set of grades. You know, if they've outperformed their peer group by 20%, it begins to look a bit different. So we use that very carefully. We look at all the social mobility flags that we can, but we look also at the whole picture of that young person. What experience have they had? What challenges have they faced? You know, where is it that they have been held back, and how can we help them go forward? So our recruitment into our boot camps really tries to make sure that we help the people that need our help the most. And if someone can do it on their own, you know, we'll send them off to do it on their own, and we'll signpost them to the right place to do it. But if they really need our help, we keep them in our programs, and we work with them. And then my team, the employment team, then place them. So I have a lovely story actually from the insurance sector, which is that I spoke about a year ago at a dive-in panel event. And one of the ladies that was there worked for an insurance company called Renaissance Reinsurance. And she gave me her card at the end of the day, and she has been in touch with me a couple of times. And this year we had 62 young people that we were trying to place at the beginning of the year. And they just hit lockdown and COVID, and we called it Project 62. Renaissance Re came forward, and they've now employed one of those young people, and they have them in their finance team. We've also worked with Royal Sun Alliance. They've taken on 2 of our young people in Manchester. They work in, they did our accounting and finance boot camp, but they've gone on to do their insurance qualifications with Royal Sun Alliance. We're also very much talking with Chubb and hope to be working together with them this year or next year. So fingers crossed. And I think if anything good has come out of this crisis and this pandemic, it's that anyone that can do something wants to do something to help. And I would say that that's where I'll end, because we really feel that there is a change coming, and that with collaboration with all the people that are doing these good things, we can actually make a move, we can make, you know, a shift in social mobility, and we can make things better, and we can improve young people's life, you know, all over the country. So thank you very much for having me today.
Absolutely brilliant, Debbie. Thank you so much. And again, I think some of the changes that we see in the world around us, because some of the bad situations that have happened in the world this year, give us opportunity to even push that shift and opening. So something positive comes out of every situation. I love the theme that you're right. If you want to do something, it's possible. And organizations like yours, like Key for Life, and mentality that comes from our colleagues like such as Chris at Impreneur, it all helps make that possible. So what I'd love to do right now, before I focus on this next slide, is I'd like to take a few questions. So I'm going to do the following. I'm going to check the chat function to see what questions have come up. If not, I've got some that actually came up before the program started. So if I could just check, right, not any questions there. So I'm going to direct my next question to Chris, if you wouldn't mind. Could you share a little bit about, you know, again, it's always interesting to hear exact examples around how diversity has brought greater value to your organization or even decision making. There's a lot of science around this, and I always love to hear the examples about how bringing diverse perspectives have led to innovation. Is that something that you can comment on from your experience, whether in your current firm or elsewhere?
Yeah, I think, thank you. Very much, Dawn. Yeah, the diversity certainly brings a different perspective in terms of potentially the can-do attitudes. It's not necessarily, you know, the technical expertise, but it's how we approach a particular problem is where I think this is most relevant, is for people that have struggled in their lives and needed to fight for everything. They find a different way of looking at a challenge, right? And they may have gone, because a lot of people that have potentially gone through the traditional channels into the insurance sector, maybe haven't fought as hard for things. So it's the way they attack challenges, the way they approach challenges, I think that is really where you start seeing the difference in the mentality. The results may be the same ultimately, but the way they get to where they're going to get to and where the team gets to is always aided by that different thinking and that different approach.
Excellent. No, that's fantastic. And maybe Debbie, I'd love to hear some feedback from you as well, and specific examples where you've seen some diversity has been brought into an organization. You told us one about Renaissance Re. Is there anything else? Any other examples you'd like to give us? Of where you've seen perhaps what could have been a challenging situation be remedied by bringing in some diversity of thought?
Absolutely, and I would say that's the case with every employer that we've ever placed anyone with. It really completely changed the dynamic of the team. I think when we're bringing particularly quite young people, they also have a different outlook on maybe some of the older managers and people that have been in the business for a long time. They bring new ideas. We have had some teams where someone's joined and they've actually gone in a completely different direction. I mean, I can give you an example of our pilot with NatWest, where we placed 10 young people into their digital degree programs. So they're actually in their innovation space. So very much new ideas. They're creating new apps for the bank. They're trying to find ways of how their user experience of things online. And I think the diversity of that team has really transformed their whole kind of almost like their the direction they were going to go in. So yes, very much so.
Absolutely. Excellent. Excellent. And just looking back at Key for Life again, Chris, back to you. Any other advice that you would give to other companies considering to hire employees from Key for Life, different ways to approach the dialogue, different ways? I know you talked about openness and kind of a already set mentality of saying yes, but any other thoughts or
I think, trust Key for Life's program. They've got a very good program that has been proven to work statistically. I think you saw it at the end of the video there, 14% of the people that come out of their program go back into reoffending. And very few of those go back into reoffending if they find the right job. Very interesting for me that Debbie said about trying to get these guys out of the gig economy, which is just a job. I'm just earning an hourly rate. If you give them the opportunity for a career, they take it. And then, you know, the statistics drop even less than that. The programs really work. Debbie's program clearly works. Trust those programs and those charities to do their jobs. Don't try and re-engineer what is tried and tested, because they know these cohorts, they know these people, they understand that mentality, they've seen it before. So trust them, take their risk assessment, go on the journey with them, and commit to it completely. Don't be half in and half out. You've really got to go in for it, and the results will be fantastic.
That's absolutely outstanding. And it's very interesting. I was actually reflecting on this entire webinar series that we've been on, where the beginning of the series was really focused on individual communication. How do you position yourself to be heard in a very noisy environment, regardless of what that environment is, whether it's a virtual environment or for an individual or a business or even a charity trying to get supplies, etc. We moved on to the next after that to really focus on sort of psychological safety and group engagement. And here we're speaking, it's just interesting how it flows. And here we're really speaking about that approach, that open-mindedness. And I love your comment about trusting the organizations that have a skill set to engage with these different groups so that we have the opportunity to find the groups and engage together. So I think it's a fascinating journey that we're on at this time. Really be conscious of how we communicate and how we engage, and then how we recruit that talent in. And that takes us to our last webinar series, a webinar of this series that we're on, is that as we have that talent, how do we help them grow and become leaders in that business? And so we all can continue to pay forward these efforts. So 2 points I'd like to say. First of all, you can see here on the screen, our next webinar is coming up on December 1st. So you'll see information on that coming through on social media very soon with Catherine Bryant from the Progress Partnership and Caroline Bedford from Digital Minds DXC. So this again focused on developing leadership potential as well. Following this webinar, you will be receiving information both about Key for Life as well as leadership through sport, so that you can engage, bring your companies to be engaged, personally engaged, and continue to support after this incredible program we've had today. So with that, if there aren't any other questions, I'd love to thank our sponsors, Weightsman and Slipcase, and of course our incredible speakers today, Chris, Noah, and Debbie, so very much. Incredible, inspiring presentation. I wish everyone to be well and to be safe. Thank you very much.